Welcome. Welcome to our panel. I honestly wasn't expecting a full house, so this is fantastic. Welcome to our panel on flexible working and inclusive teams. Today we have 4 very talented, experienced and interesting panellists for you today. And I am not going to talk too much. I am hoping that I can get the panellists to intro themselves and we'll have a great discussion. You can see a QR code sitting there. If you have any questions or you wish to upvote any of the questions that are in our current Slido moderated panel session, you can do so via that link. I am looking at them over here, and when I have a particular question, it will come up on the screen. Okay, so this is pretty dynamic overall. Let's have some fun. Okay. So if you don't know me, my name is Rebecca Waters. I am a software engineer now, people manager at a large technology company. I have here Ryan Oakley. Hi Ryan, how are you doing?
I'm good. I'm a software developer who's neurodiverse. I have autism. I'm currently working on a cloud infrastructure team, again, for a large organisation. And as part of my work and in my free time, I do neurodiversity advocacy, where I really focus on the strengths they can bring to an organisation.
So, hi Tina. Thank you for joining us on the panel. Tina is here as our industry expert.
Oh, God. Thanks for that.
No problem. What else can you tell us about Tina?
Oh, okay. That was a lot of times you said my name there, in case you didn't catch it, everyone. So I am Tina. I am CEO of a company called Valrose, which is a technology recruitment company. I'm looking at my two of my amazing team here. So we are fortunate enough to work with a lot of different businesses in hiring diverse teams and helping them make sure that they give them inclusive environments. And in my spare time, I am co-chair of Women in Technology WA. So yeah, that's me.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us, Tina. Louise, I actually work with Louise, and I said to her a few weeks ago, hi. Louise, would you like to do a bit of an intro?
Yeah. I also work at a large
technology company. Yeah, funnily enough.
I've obviously been in the industry for a long time. I've had a lot of roles, but I've been at TELUS for a very long time now and have enjoyed every minute of it. It's the first organisation where I came out as Aboriginal. It's a different sort of coming out, isn't it? Because I'm obviously not coloured. I was encouraged as a child to not identify, and so it's been an interesting journey through that while I've been at the organisation, and
That's you.
That's me.
Fantastic. And our final panellist today is Teresa. Hi, Teresa.
Hello.
How you doing?
I'm doing all right. A little bit nervous now that I'm sitting up here, but doing okay.
Now, Teresa, what's your field?
Yep, so I am a user experience designer. I'm a senior user experience designer at Moodle, which is an open source learning management system. And it's a global distributed team. I've only been there for about a month. Prior to that, I was a senior user experience designer at Bankwest. I also have 2 little boys who factor quite heavily into my life, as well as a lot of different creative hobbies. So another big factor of my life.
Fantastic. So I'm going to dive into some of the questions that are coming up on the panel. And the first one that I can see is, come on, yes. It's okay. I've got an excellent reading voice. If you inherit or join a team that is not at all diverse in terms of gender, ethnicity, etc., what can you do to improve that? You can't just fire a bunch of people and replace them. So what can you do instead? I think perhaps... I'm looking at everybody here. I know we've got a few people in leadership positions. Louise, would you like to have a think about that one?
Yeah, I think it's actually really an easy thing to think about. we're all different, we're all diverse anyway, even if your team is full of white male, middle-aged males, every one of them will have a different background, different priorities in their lives, and you just look for the diversity and you'll see it.
Yeah, that's a fantastic approach. Thanks, Louise. Tina, do you have some ideas?
It's a tricky one when you inherit a team. I think it's always easier to embed a culture that in a team that you build from scratch. But I think setting the intent of having a look around the table, I think I agree. Everyone has a different diverse thinking and acknowledging that, but also acknowledging the perspectives that you might not have around the table at that point. You know, I think someone's changed the phrase from culture fit to culture add. And I do really like that sense, because culture fit is expecting someone to fit into your organisation. Culture add is respecting what someone can bring to the table that you might not already have. And I think it's having a look at that, especially in technology, because you want technology to be fit for purpose for the demographic, multiple demographic, you know, that you're targeting, whether that's your end users or your customers or businesses. So having diverse teams in tech is really important to make sure that tech fits everyone's needs. So, you know, who haven't you got at that table? Who haven't you got as part of that tech team? And make a conscious effort to make sure when you are hiring next that you are actively looking for people that can add to the people you already have. I think it's a longer process, because no, you can't fire people, and you shouldn't fire people because they are obviously there on merit. So I think that that's really important to state those values and that intent to make sure you've got that diverse pool around the table. And it soon becomes clear, if you do have people within your team that don't buy into that concept, you'll find that they'll often self-select out if they're not on board with going down that journey as well.
Yeah, thanks, Tina. A really important point. Teresa, you work from home.
Yes, I do.
So I have a question here, and I do apologise. This is not my laptop. This is Amy's laptop. So Amy will be coming back in at some point to help me sign back in. So we're just going to listen to my voice and enjoy the pictures that Windows gives us. So I have a question here. If you're working from home, what's your morning routine? And do you use any time management?
Okay, so I've been working from home, like many of us, I suppose, who are able to, on and off for the past couple of years due to COVID. Also, as I mentioned, I have 2 young children, so I took leave. I had been intending to work from home to some extent, and my previous employer, Bankwest, was very, very happy to do that. So it has been for the past couple of years, but it was not an official, fully remote role. Moodle is my first pretty much remote first role. So I suppose I'm still kind of figuring out the routine now that it feels more permanent, even though I was effectively remote before. I imagine it changes for everyone. But for me personally, I end up getting up at about 6 because that's when my kids get up. So the way that it works for me is they watch TV, we eat some breakfast, then my husband looks after them while I go get ready and then get started. I usually try to get started fairly early so I can finish up early and have a bit more time with them. My day when I used to commute into the city used to involve a lot more getting dressed and thinking about what I was going to wear and putting on makeup, and now I don't really have that. My office is in my bedroom, so I have an extremely short commute.
Thank you. I do like that small commute. I hope you still manage to, get some me time in that commute a little bit. Ryan, I was hoping to ask you about your experiences with inclusive workplaces.
Okay. Well, I was very fortunate to find a very inclusive workplace. As someone with neurodiversity, it really comes down to finding a team where they're willing to take advantage of your strengths and finding a workplace where they're willing to make accommodations. So one small one is we have an open plan, like most companies do these days. And I can't concentrate very well if someone's behind me. So I always get the desk at the end of the row. And that may seem like a small thing to some people, but for me, I would be able to concentrate otherwise. I also, as I said, have a principal engineer who has a deep understanding of neurodiversity, and he knows what sort of projects to put on and where I can really excel. So, for example, I really excel at depth and complexity.
Thanks, Ryan. That's I think, fantastic to have that support network in your workplace, right? That's a little bit about what Tina was talking about there too. The next question is, how can you overcome the bias from a team that predominantly works 9 to 5 when you feel like you're the only one that is working flexibly? My goodness. So do we have some flexible workers on the panel? Yeah. Tina, Teresa, do you want to maybe give us some of your thoughts around this?
It's kind of a tricky one, I suppose. I've been lucky enough to work with managers who have really exemplified this, and I feel like that's really important to be demonstrating that they have particular boundaries or they need that flexibility, and they're not afraid to say so. And it's really important to have that then example for the team, so you can go, okay, it's all right for me to step out for a minute to do something, or to work in a pattern which makes more sense for me as long as I'm getting my work done. I think it requires a lot of trust. But I find that starting with small steps, I suppose, if you're the only person doing it, to create that trust, to show, look, sure, I'm not working a typical 9 to 5, but I've taken this small step. The world hasn't fallen down. Everything is still getting done. And then you can continue taking those steps. And then as you're creating that example, then more people will be able to follow.
Yeah, I think the example setting is a really good point there, Teresa. It actually reminds me of my current manager, who's really vocal about when he's taking time out to visit the kids or to pick up the kids or to do something else, and that's a value that he portrays to let his team know that it is okay that you have a life. Yeah. We have another question here. Now, it feels a little bit similar. How can we create a flexible and inclusive work environment for teams in which some team members are required in the office at certain times, and others would be able to work from home more flexibly? I'm looking at Louise here, actually, because we have some, in-office requirements at our work. What are some of the tools that we use there to manage that?
Yeah, we have people that have to work on site because of the nature of what they're working on, and the information can't leave the site, so they can't work from home. They work in the same team as people who don't have that restriction at one or other sort of time. So what we do is basically allow flexibility at any time, and just push the boundary of what we call flexibility, basically. So, if they need to do something during the day, they go and do whatever. If they want to work whatever hours, they work whatever hours. And if they've got an arrangement where they normally work from home on, say, a Wednesday, but this week they're working on classified on information that they can't take, they will just take that day another day if they want. So it's a matter of actually being flexible, not just using the words and having a policy of being flexible. I think there's a difference between having a policy of flexibility and having contracts that people sign up to be flexible.
Yeah, absolutely. And
versus
I like another
actually being flexible.
Yeah, I like another point that you made there as well, which was about the team goal and keeping everybody is mindful of what that team goal is, and as long as you recognise that overall you're achieving that goal together, of somebody is in the office when they need to be, and we can manage that together. That's a really good mindset to have. That you're not there alone. You're not in this alone. Thank you. I have another question here, and thank you for some wonderful questions. I am trying to keep up with what comes at the top, so please bear bear with me. This one comes in. I am currently working remotely for a non-profit open source startup based in Amsterdam, and I'm the only Australia-based employee. How can I recommend, or how do you recommend I ask to be included given everyone else is co-located? Wow. Do you want to...
I will try. That's
Yeah.
a big one, and it's a complex one. And I will hold my hands up and say I haven't managed international teams. So, but from my understanding is what I think the first thing you'd need to look at is what does inclusion look like for you? So I think you need to become clear of like what does that look like for some, because otherwise they'll make assumptions and they might put things in place that are detrimental. Inclusion for you might be jumping onto a Teams chat at some point on a Friday to catch up with the team and have a quiz night or something. For other people that might be super cringe and you'd hate it. So I think being clear about what are the points that you need to feel included, and then go to them and state what they are like. And it may be that it's a couple of smaller things around being included on certain chats, or asking for information that might be a water cooler conversation to be passed on. You know, just think of the things that are important to you, and kind of be clear about what they are, I suppose, when you're having those conversations.
Yeah. Thank you, Tina. I love this one. Is it appropriate for a neurotypical straight white man to be pushing for diversity and inclusivity within a workplace? How can we best be allies to the cause? Love it. I love it. Now, none of our panellists are like right in that area, but Ryan.
I am the closest. This is actually a conversation I've had a lot, and the answer is of course you can. But it's always good to make room for lived experience voices. It's also sometimes important for straight white men to start the conversation, because you can end up with a situation where, let's say you want to make your workplace more accepting of disability people, where that if people with disability or people with neurodivergence don't feel comfortable standing up. So sometimes you need someone who's, for lack of a better word, mainstream, to stand up and be the voice first. And once those lived experience voices come in, then you can start bringing them into the conversation and start putting them forward if they want to and feel comfortable with it.
Thank you. That's an excellent point. And I love how clear you were able to make that point, which shows that you are a champion to the cause and a great ally. The next question, oh wow, they just changed. So you are dynamically choosing what comes up next, and we're probably 1 or 2 questions until the end, so get those votes in. How do you balance the desire or the need for some staff to fully work from home and with the other desire and needs of others for face-to-face interactions, particularly for maybe people who feel isolated at home? In particular, in a single cohesive team. Now, Tina, you spoke on this just a moment ago, I guess, in terms of how to feel included. Is there anything that you would add?
I'd say that our team are a combination of extroverts and introverts, I think. So there's half of us just love working from home, and you know we get dragged into the office every now and then. The other half really miss that connection. So I think it's acknowledging both, and again being curious about what each other needs to feel that connection. You know, I think a couple of us could go 2 weeks with working with the odd check-in and still feel motivated where others don't. So we've come to the conclusion that mostly on a Monday, and always on a Monday, but sometimes on a Friday, we will all be in the office together. That's our personal choice, and that's what we discussed and worked for us as a compromise to have those kind of to accommodate for both the extroverts and the introverts across our team. So,
yeah, love it. Thank you. There have recently been experiments around the world of the effectiveness of the 4-day week. Oh, this is great. Do we have many people that work part-time with us today? Yeah, a fair few. Do you see it taking off in Perth? I might go to Tina and then maybe Teresa as somebody who does work part-time.
I'm still on the fence with it because I can see a lot of benefits, but also knowing my own personality type, I just think I would kill myself in those 4 days to still get the same stuff done, and I'd probably need that day just to recover from the 4 days that I tried to put in. So I don't know. For me, jury's out still. I'd like to see a lot more evidence of how successful, in theory, and it feels like it's going to work, but I can see there may be some potential pitfalls with it. So I'd like to see a few more people experiment with it first before I commit to the team.
Teresa?
So I've been working 4 days a week since I started at Moodle, and I love it. Working part-time is amazing. It was kind of helpful to me in that I started to do this as I started a new job. So I wasn't taking my 5-day workload and attempting to squish it into a 4-day workload. I was starting with an entirely new one. So for me, that really helped. It's a little bit different because I'm electing to work 4 days a week. It's not the 4-day work week is the idea that you would be paid your equivalent salary, or that's the main flavour of it, I suppose, but for that 4 days. And that is something which I assume would probably need a little bit more experimentation and a bit more proof to really become more mainstream, as Tina said.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. The next question is that I find it frustrating when leaders come back from parental leave and they want to work part-time only to be told that the role isn't available in this capacity. Is this outdated thinking, or should the business be more flexible with leadership roles? So we have 5 minutes left, and this is a good one. So we have a couple of parents up on the panel, and Tina, you have just come back from parental leave.
I have. So I have a 3-year-old who's in the wonderful childcare that DDD put on. Thank you very much for that. And I have a 5-week-old, who's at home with his dad. And I think that is such an outdated concept, like completely outdated. So I went to put my hand up when I work part-time, but I'm technically still on parental leave. So I'm not sure how that looks when I get back yet. But for me, I'm a leader of 2 organisations. So I lead Valrose as a CEO, and I lead Women in Technology WA as a co-chair. They both take up my time. I put in a lot of hours, but I think to say that you can't come back as a leader flexibly I think you're thinking more of a manager than a leader. I think if you're a senior leader, it's a perfect opportunity to come back as flexibly, because it's about being the driver of the culture. It's about setting the strategy. It's about trusting your team to kind of execute and do. And yeah, you may need to get in and get your hands dirty, but if you can't, I just think that it's an ideal role sometimes to be able to do that. And yes, it can be high pressure, but yeah, you should at that stage have really got a lot more comfortable with setting your boundaries, with managing your time and being able to do that. So I think it's an absolutely outdated concept, not outdated role.
Thank you, Tina. Are there any other people who would like to have a go at that question overall, or shall I move on? Okay. So our final question today is, how can remote teams build strong relationships with one another? Ryan, do you have some remote people in your team currently?
Unofficially, yes. So because I work on a cloud team, they really don't like being in the office. The main way I see doing it is, it's good to have for lack of a better word, meme culture in teams. The other thing is, you don't need to be in person to have coffee. And also, if you can get in the habit of trying to get to the point where you're comfortable joking around and bantering with them within reason, that can really help as well.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. So we do have time for one more question, and I am just live updating because at the moment the questions are like my questions, which is fine. The next one that I will ask then is flexible working constrained to time or place, and how else can workplaces be flexible? Now, Louise, I'm going to pick on you here because we have quite a, robust, flexible working policy and people that do a lot of different things. So I know that you've got some thoughts on how that can work.
Yeah. So we have a big policy.
It's too big, too many pages to read.
And you can have TELUS flex, place, time, whatever. I can't remember all of the things. But I think it's a matter of thinking about what it is that makes people's lives whole, and then ensuring that they get to that chance to do that. So using your policy to take away restrictions from people, and giving them back a lifestyle. So being able to work outside of normal hours, being able to work, start work, finish work in the middle of the day to do something with the kids, and then start working again later at home or whatever. All these things are very helpful for people.
Yeah, completely. I like the idea there where you're considering the whole self and, work is part of what we do. So how can we achieve our goals, personal and professional together, just our goals generally, and what can our workplaces do as part of one of those goals that we want to achieve, right? Because we all want to be there to some degree. So how can we ensure that we all actually bring our best selves? Yeah, fantastic. So we are actually out of time, would you believe? That went extremely quickly. It really did. Can I please ask you to warmly thank our panellists? If you would like to continue the conversation with anyone, I'm sure you can find them all on various memes or mediums. Memes, hopefully not memes, but maybe. I think I've seen a couple of GIFs already of me moving around on stage, hopefully no one else. So you can continue the conversation with our panellists at any time. And that's it. Enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you so much.